worldwide news service, Truth in Broadcasting, your source for unbiased media.
I'm in Elberton, Georgia, side of the Georgia Guidestones, and we could do a story about who's behind it, what they were thinking when they erected this, in their statements they've made, but it's been done many times before, and there's been a lot more money placed into the research of who's actually behind it. And so therefore, we're not going to hit on those points, although they are very interesting. What I'm going to talk about is something that this is a microcosm of, and that's conspiracies. People will say, well, that's a conspiracy theory. And that is a code word to just exit out. Doesn't exist. It's a conspiracy theory. But really, a conspiracy, by definition, is two or more people conspiring to do something and hide it, which is basically just a crime. That's whether it's robbing a convenience store, whether it's conspiring to do something, a husband and wife, or a husband or a wife that's cheating on you, it's conspiring. So it does exist. It really does happen, and it happens on a daily basis millions of times around the world, if not more. So the conspiracy behind this, find out who was really behind it. It took more than one person to do this, so there was a conspiracy. More than one person came together to make this happen. One of the largest conspiracies and one of the largest frauds to ever befall the United States and the rest of the world is the Federal Reserve. Now, when you think about the Federal Reserve, if you know what I'm talking about, this is going to be very elementary. But for those who don't know, the Federal Reserve is neither federal nor reserve. It has nothing to do with the federal government. It's independent bankers, much like maybe your neighbor. Your neighbor's a banker, he owns ABC Bank, and he's going to coin the money for around your area. But what is this based off of? Well, this money's based off nothing. It's printed out of thin air. It's printed monthly, daily. We don't really know because we're not allowed to know. We're not allowed to investigate. We're not allowed to audit. We're not allowed to know who these people are. Our founding fathers warned us against this. Now, the inception of the Federal Reserve tried to take place many times, but it actually happened on Jekyll Island during a Christmas break in secrecy in 1913. To put this into perspective for someone who doesn't understand the Federal Reserve, when you, say you're a young couple in your 20s, you want to buy a house. So you have saved $50,000, you're going to buy a $250,000 house, and you go down to the bank and you want a loan for this house. So you put $50,000 down and you take a loan for $200,000. Now this loan for $200,000 you're going to make payments on for the next 30 years. That loan originates at the Federal Reserve banks. The Federal Reserve banks, they hit a keystroke and create money out of thin air. And now you owe them, you and your wife, or your wife and your husband, you owe them for the next 30 years of hard work. That's real work, that's tangible. So these bankers create money out of thin air. Now, if you want to know what's going on around the world with Russia today, not the program, but with Russia and other nations today, we're in an economic war with Russia. We're in an economic war with some of the rest of the world because they're wanting to do away with the petrodollar, which is the oil dollar. Oil is traded in US dollars. That was set up years ago with Kissinger and the administration back then. And it goes back beyond that. But the world's reserve currency is the US dollar. Now, this US dollar is being threatened now. It's being threatened by Russia and several other nations. I don't want to see our economy collapse, and that's probably what would happen if Russia and several other large countries like China and a few others would create their own currency and no longer use the US dollar for any of it. Like I said, I don't want to see that happen, but that is what's going on. And so that goes back to the Georgia Guidestones, the conspiracy. The Federal Reserve is one of the biggest conspiracies to ever happen. And you're not allowed to know who they are. You're not allowed to audit them. And you're not allowed to know where all the trillions of dollars that go back to them in actual asset money, which is hard work, which is industrial capability and all that, where do those trillions go? They go into the hands that's not audible? Don't know. So I'm Jerry Dalton, Worldwide News Service, and that's the real story.